So you're just gonna start on your back. Bring the soles of your feet together and then knees out to the side. So you're in a supine butterfly. And then arms, take two, if you can, a cactus or a diamond shape with your palms face up so that you're opening up across the chest and the inner line of the arm. And then you can just gently rock your head side to side a couple of times to massage out the back of your skull. Just find some length in the sides of your neck. And if this feels too much for your knees, you can always take blocks underneath your knees or your thighs. And then once you kind of just found that place that's really comfortable or that you feel like you can sink into, start to bring your awareness to your breath. So especially when we start to work into back bends, into arm balances, the first thing to really go is our capacity to breathe, that we start to hold our breath because we're putting in effort. And so we're going to try to find this breath throughout our practice where no matter what we're doing, we're able to find awareness of the inhales and the exhales, that no matter how hard or challenging our present moment is, that there's always room to just breathe, and in that space, especially the exhale, there's room for ease. So you can empty out whatever air you're holding on to. And just take a giant breath in through your nose. Fill all the way up to the top. Feel your chest rise and then belly rise. And then exhale out through your mouth and feel your body drop into your mat. Almost like a giant sigh. And then inhale breath, fill all the way up. And exhale, let that go. Okay, let's just take one more big and exaggerated breath together. Inhale. At the top, take an extra sip of air. Hold. And then as you exhale, just completely release. Just let your body rest heavy. You can gently begin to release your hands down towards your knees and pick your knees up. Knees pointed to the ceiling, feet are planted. Walk your feet out wide and then just gently drop your knees left and right. So you're windshield wipering your knees side to side. I'm going to start in dead bug just to bring in some mobility to wrists and feet. So the next time your knees come up through center, heel toe your feet in closer and then pick up your knees so they're coming towards your chest and then feet up towards the ceiling. Okay, perfect. Okay, hands come above your shoulders. And you're just going to let your limbs dangle there for a moment. So you might feel a slight sway, your toes might come closer to your face or further away. And then you'll just invite in some circles of your wrists and of your feet. Hey, don't worry if there's some cracking, that's pretty normal. And move in the opposite direction as well. And then we're going to take this a little bit more challenging. So instead of just kind of loosey-goosey circles, turn your toes in towards your shins, flex your fingertips towards your hands. So you should feel sensation into the tops of your shins and into the fronts of your forearms. You can now begin to turn your fingertips or your toes out towards the side of the space, still keeping that flex. And now begin to point through your fingers and through your toes. So you're creating these circles, but really, really slowly. Okay, now pause. Now your fingertips draw to the inner line of your forearm. Your toes are pointed up to the ceiling. Now begin to turn them in and start to flex again. So hands are flexing, feet are flexing. Let's take one more circle just like that. And then we'll take two the other direction. So it should feel like a lot of work for the forearms and the shins. This articulated rotation. But this is where we start to really engage those stabilizing muscles. All right, and then you can shake it out. You can just kind of shake out your feet, shake out your hands, let that go. Okay, let's take a big full body stretch. So to engage the core, we're gonna start from hands and feet lifted. Bring your big toes together to touch. Hands can be about shoulder width distance. Press your belly button towards the ground, like you're squishing that gap of air between your low back and the earth. And then slowly begin to draw your arms overhead. Point your toes away from you and you're lowering your heels towards the ground. Now, if you notice your low back starts to lift, you can take more of a bend into your knees, and then you'll slowly take your feet down and your arms overhead. Okay, take a big full body stretch. And then as you exhale, just soften and relax into that shape. Okay, we'll take one more breath just like that. So really reach and lengthen. And exhale, let that go. Okay, plant into your feet once again. So feet are gonna plant about hip width distance, knees are bent and pointed up to the ceiling. And then release your arms down beside your body, palms face down. Your middle fingers might even be able to brush the backs of your heels. So if they don't, you can always play with walking your heels in a little bit closer. Okay, we'll start with just the hips. Press into your hands, press into your feet, and begin to lift your hips up towards the ceiling for a little bridge. So you'll feel the tops of your shoulders press into the ground, hands, backs of your arms. Okay, and then as you exhale, slowly roll down one vertebra at a time. If you're feeling some tension in your knees, you can play with walking your heels out further or closer in, or you can even take a block or prop in between your knees and squeeze in. Okay, so you're just gonna continue with breath. Inhale, lifts your hips up. Perfect, and exhale to lower them. And try to find that rhythm of your breath. Now, if you wanna make this a little bit more challenging for the hamstrings, but it's also gonna give you that opening in the shoulders, the next time that you go to lift up, your arms are gonna come with you. So fingertips are gonna lift up to the ceiling overhead, so they point back behind you. And then as you exhale, hips lower, hands lift up to the ceiling and then down beside you. So you're creating a rainbow arc with your arms. So arms will lift overhead when your hips come up, and then arms come down beside your body when your hips go down. Okay, and see if you can take that even just a little bit slower. So you're lengthening the breath, feeling that pause at the end where you squeeze into the back line of the body, and then slowly lowering down. Okay, let's take two more. So you might even be feeling a little bit of that fire or intensity into the glutes, into the hamstrings. Last one, lifting all the way up. And then as you exhale, you'll gently release back down. Okay. Heel toe your feet out wide, so to the edges of your mat, keeping your knees bent, just drop your knees in towards one another. Okay. And then you can just allow your body a couple breaths of rest. And more so than the rest is really just that bringing the spine back to neutral. Okay. And then if it feels good, you can always add in a little bit of movement just to start to ease out of this shape. Once again, windshield wipering your feet side to side. Okay. Now if this next pose isn't available, there's a couple of options. You can use a towel or a strap to hold your foot, or you can just grab the shin or the calf. So heel toe your feet in closer together, and then bring your knees into your chest. So you're giving yourself a nice big hug. Okay. Arms wrap around tops of your shins. It might feel nice to roll side to side, especially after the bridge lifts. Okay. I'm gonna start in a half happy baby. So keep your right knee into your chest. Extend your left heel out straight. So the back of your left heel is towards the ground. At any point, if this feels like too much on the front of your left hip, you can slide your left heel up so your foot is planted, knee is bent. And then reach your right hand for the inside edge of your right foot and bend your right knee towards the side of your rib cage. Yeah, you got it. Perfect. So you're in a half happy baby. And then you begin to, as you inhale, kick through the right foot. So you're straightening out the right leg to the right side of your mat. So you should feel this in your inner thigh along the inside edge of your leg. Perfect. As you exhale, bend your knee, take your heel towards your pubic bone or to your belly button. So really, really deep bend in the knee, almost like you're coming to wind relieving pose. Switch your grip. Left hand now to the pinky side edge of your right foot, and then kick across your body over to the left. So you're coming into a twist with that leg extended. Okay, and you're just gonna move through this a few times. So exhales are gonna bring you back through center, and then inhales, you'll switch hand, right foot, kick out to the side, and then exhale will bring you back through center, and then all the way to the other side. Okay, so you're just gonna move through this a few times. It's meant to feel sticky, so don't worry if it feels like your body just doesn't wanna move like this. Just honor where your body's at. So if it's kind of giving you signals that that's too deep, just ease back from there. And you're looking for that fluidity so that you can move your hip in this whole cyclical range without feeling those areas where you get stuck or you get stopped. Okay. Let's take one more to each side. Or you can finish out this last cycle if you're on the twisted edge. And then you'll bring your knee back through center and extend your toes up towards the ceiling. So now working into the hamstrings, hands line behind the back of your calf, shin, hamstring, whatever is available. And you're just gonna draw your knee towards your face. Okay. If this is too much for your left hip, again, always optional, bend the knee, plant the foot. And then we're gonna find some active lengthening. So flex your right toes towards your shin. And you're gonna feel that sensation to the back of the leg. That already is gonna create more length. And then begin to press your leg into your hands. So wherever your hands are connected, whether it's a hamstring or the calf, and don't let your leg move. So your hands are equally pulling in so that you're kind of in this place of almost homeostasis, that your body is in a perfect balance of pressure. Okay, let's hold here for one more full breath. And then as you exhale, just relax completely, and you might allow your leg to draw in a little bit closer. If you want to create a tiny bit more depth for this last breath, you can inhale, lift your forehead up to your knee or your shin, drawing your heart in closer to your thigh. And then exhale, slowly roll back down. Okay, now switching sides, this should feel good for the right hip. So bend into your right knee, take your left knee into your chest, and you're just gonna switch sides. So extend your right leg out. Now feeling this lengthening through that hip that just went into a lot of compression. And half happy baby on the other side. So left hand grabs inside edge of your left foot. Right leg is extended, left knee down beside your ribcage. And just follow your breath. So as you inhale, you're gonna kick your left heel out to the side, straighten out the leg. As you exhale, you're bending your knee, heel in towards your body, nice and close. Switch hands, right hand to the outer edge of your left foot, and then just kick out. And so we're just gonna do this a couple of times, well, maybe more than a couple, but moving through this, maybe 5 or 6 rounds of this movement, so that as you get towards the end, your body is a little bit more fluid. It's almost like you're lubricating the joints. And really, that's what we're looking for in this practice, is to create that mobility. And so to create mobility, you just have to simply move through it. And it's almost like each time that you move, you're creating heat in the joint so that it begins to melt away that tension or stickiness. So let's take 2 more to each side. And just check in that even if this movement is a little tricky or a little bit sticky, that you still have your breath. And then last one to each side. Land back into that hamstring opener. So once you come through center, you finish off the last round. Knee comes in and then toes extend up to the ceiling. Always optional to bend and plant your right foot. And just pause for a couple of breaths to find where is comfortable for you, where you're feeling that length, but it's not so much that it's uncomfortable. And then you're just gonna slowly begin to flex into your left foot. So you're turning the toes towards the shin instead of pointing the toes. And then press the back of your left leg into your hands. Okay, still, if your right leg is extended, you can press through the right heel. Okay, and let's hold here in this active lengthening just for 2 more breaths. So this is where you're gonna wanna hold the breath, so make sure that you're still breathing, especially that exhale. And then on your next exhale, you'll just gently release. Keep your hands as they are, but soften. Okay, if you did so on the other side, you'll lift your forehead up towards your knee or shin to take a little bit more length as you inhale. And as you exhale, just gently releasing back down. Okay, bend into your left knee, bring your right knee in as well. And then just gently rock side to side. Okay. If this is too much for your low back or your flooring is really hard and you don't want to rock and roll up and down your spine, just roll to either side and press up. Otherwise, hands behind your knees. And you can just take about 3 to 5 rocks and rolls. It can be nice to massage out the spine. And then we'll meet into tabletop. Okay, so shoulders stack over top of your wrists, hips over top of your knees. Perfect. As you inhale, drop your belly down, lift your tailbone, and then send your heart forward. As you exhale, broaden across the shoulders, press into the ground, belly button to spine, chin to chest. Okay, let's take 2 more cat-cows. Inhale opens the front line of your body. Exhale opens the back line. And then last one, really lingering in that pause after the inhale. And then allowing yourself that space and the pause after the exhale. Come back to a neutral spine. Okay, modified side plank over to the right. Tuck your right toes under, slide your right heel back. So right leg is straight. And then turn and pivot open to the right side of your mat. So your left toes will point to the left edge of your mat, and then your right hand comes up and right foot's planted. Okay, perfect. Okay. Reach through your fingertips up towards the ceiling. Squeeze into your glutes and feel like you're pressing your hips forward. So you should get a length through the hip flexor and the quad. And then to create that long line through the lateral side of the body, reach your right fingertips over to the top of your mat. So there's almost a line of length from your right hand to your right planted foot. Okay. And then to come back to tabletop, continue to drag your right fingertips forward, rotate the rib cage down, right hand comes down, and then right knee slides in. You're just gonna find that on the other side. So left toes extend back, leg is straight, pivot open to the left side of your mat, and just draw your left fingertips up. So this is your modified plank. And then to make this more about the front line of the body, you just contract into the back line. So you squeeze into your glutes, you press your hips forward, and then adding into the shoulder and arm, reach your left fingertips to the front of your mat. Okay, gaze may even draw forward as you open through the throat, and then slowly come back down to tabletop. Okay, we're gonna do that 2 more times to each side, but this time it's gonna be a circle of the arm. So as you open, right hand will sweep down and back, and then it'll lift up and forward. As it draws forward, come back to tabletop. Left side, left toes draw out, left hand reaches towards the back of your mat and up. Full big circle of the arm to come forward and back to tabletop. Okay, yeah, that looks awesome. Okay, let's take 1 more to each side. You can even reach back behind you if you want to take this a little bit deeper. Oh no, wind problems on the balcony. Yeah, so you can just take that full circle and then we'll come back and do the left side. Okay, so then the next time that you come back through center, let's open up the fronts of the wrists, really important in arm balancing. So you begin to turn your fingertips out to the sides of your mat and then towards your knees. Okay, one of the things you'll notice here, if your arms are too far in front, it'll feel like your elbows are popping forward, so you can always walk your hands a little bit closer in and then soft bend into your elbows and just shift side to side. You can shift forward and back. You can even take little circles, figure eights. Just start to find some movement and make it really mindful. So you're not going too deep, but just creating some space for the muscles of your forearms or front of your forearms to open, especially if you're doing a lot of typing at a desk. This should hopefully feel nice. Okay. Let's come all the way back to center. You'll just slowly release your hands one at a time to face forward. Walk your knees together, walk your big toes together, and then send your hips back onto your heels. So this is gonna open up the bottoms of your feet. Reach around, tuck your pinky toes under because they like to be little escape artists. Okay. And then bring your hands to your rib cage, so your fingertips point back behind you, elbows out to the side so you look like a chicken. And then just draw your elbows back. So you're opening up the fronts of your wrists. Okay. Wrists are one of the things when we come into arm balances, if we don't properly warm them up, that you'll really start to feel them. So really important just to create some mobility in there. Okay, so keeping your feet as they are, you can just release your hands out in front, circle a couple directions, point, flex, you can curl into balls and extend your fingers or just circle it out. Okay, you should be feeling this into your feet by now. If you're not, you can always take your knees and slide them literally a couple millimeters forward. And then relax your hands onto your thighs. Close your eyes and just roll your shoulders once. And we're gonna take 3 more breaths here. So see if even with the sensation of your feet, of your knees, of your hips, that there's still room to breathe. Okay, last breath. Relax into your shoulders and your face. Walk your hands forward, lifting your hips away from your heels. Untuck your toes, so tops of your feet are coming onto your mat. And then once again, sit your hips back onto your heels. Okay. This might be enough. You can stay here, or you can walk your hands back and lean back. This can take it a bit more into the quads. If you want to get even deeper into the ankles, you can play with floating your knees off your mat. Just make sure that there's no pulling in the knees. If there is, it just means your quads are probably too tight to actually be this far back. And then it's actually pulling on the ligaments and tendons of the knees rather than the muscles being lengthened. All right, begin to walk your hands forward. So they're landing right in front of your knees. Lift up your hips to tuck your toes. You're gonna come into a fold of sorts. So you'll pick up your hips, begin to straighten out your legs, and then drape your body. We're not gonna stay here, we're gonna move through that a couple more times. So shift your heels away from the ground. You're lowering your knees down again. So take it nice and slow. Once your knees have landed, walk your hands back and just begin to open up through your heart. So you're on fingertips, squeeze your shoulders, lift your gaze, and then walk your hands forward. Core is engaged, press into your hands, lift your hips up, and just straighten out your legs until it's comfortable. So you'll notice I still have a bend in my knees, that's okay. And you're just gonna continue to flow through this 3 more times. So knees will come down, hands walk back. It's a modified camel of sorts. If you want to take this more into the quads, pick your hips up away from your heels. That might feel like too much, that's okay. Just keep them as they are. Okay, so we'll take 2 more. So a lot of this practice to get into back bends, to get into arm balances is really just mobility. So it's making sure that our joints have the space to be going into those deep poses rather than just going through strengthening. It's a lot about making sure that we're open enough first and then building the strength from that place. Okay, so last one, when you land in your fold, you're gonna stay there. So once you planted your hands, you'll pick up your hips. Hands are probably far away from your feet, so just walk your hands in. Feet at least hip width distance, and then interlace your hands behind the back of your head. Elbows will just drop down beside maybe your temples or your ears. You can sway slightly if that feels good. Chin tucks in towards your chest. Yeah, I like this variation because it creates space across the mid-thoracic, kind of that bra strap area. I realize it's probably not a great cue for you, but yeah. And then if you want to take any other variation, you can release the hands. You can always interlace hands behind the back, maybe open up through the shoulders. All right, if you do have any sort of arm variation, you can just gently release. Okay, so you're probably in the middle of your mat, that's okay, you can stay there. Turn your toes out, you're coming into a yogi squat. Just begin to sink your hips down. Okay, so it's gonna feel a little sticky, so you can always just move side to side, picking up your heels, you can kind of shift. Might feel a little bit of that release into the hips. If that's too much, you can always just take it from up here as well, forearms onto your thighs. Okay, we'll revisit this in a little bit. Let's come back into your fold. Hands come down, pick up your hips, turn your toes to face the front of your mat. Deep bend into both knees. Place your left hand into the center of your mat. As you inhale, straighten out your right leg only, and then send your right hand towards your low back or all the way up towards the ceiling. Okay, so left knee really bent, right leg straight. As you exhale, come back down, bend into both knees. Right hand replaces left. Okay, think about almost a halfway lift as you twist the other side. So left leg straightens, reaching the crown of your head forward, left hip kicks out. And then as you exhale, drape your body, knees bend, and your belly towards thighs. Okay, one more to each side. Inhale to open up to the right. You got it. Exhale, fold. One more time, inhale, breath, open up to the left. And exhale to fold. Okay, inhale, breath, halfway lift, hands to the ground or to your shins. Reach the crown of your head forward. And then exhale to fold. Looking forward, begin to walk your hands towards the top of your mat and then have your feet follow in little bitty steps. Okay, inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Bend into your knees, sweep your arms up, stand tall, full breath in. And then exhale, hands gather at heart center. Okay, inhale, breath, reach up, stand tall. So you exhale, sit into your chair, sink your hips back. Okay, and then to create the strength in the glutes from your chair, press through your heels. Make sure when you look down, knees are more over your ankles. You can see all 10 toes. And then draw your heels out towards the right and left sides of the mat. So it's like you're drawing your heels away from one another. You should really feel this in the glutes. Okay, and then draw your belly button towards your spine and pull your pull your hip bones up towards your bottom 2 ribs. So that's gonna take that dip out of the low back. Whew. All right, one more breath in. Exhale, forward fold, let that go. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold, plant your hands, step your toes back, high plank. Optional, you can lower your left knee like we did earlier, or you can find side plank without the modification. Walk your left hand, one hand print forward. So your hands are staggered. Roll to the pinky side edge of your left foot. So you're on the big toe edge of your right. And then take your right hand up. Reach your right hand over towards the top of your mat. And then turn back to a high plank. So right hand plants, left hand walks back. Walk your right hand, one hand print forward. Turn over to the left. So pinky side edge of your right foot. Left hand reaches up, reaches over to the front, and then comes all the way back. Walk your right hand back. Take a full breath in. As you exhale, lower from toes or knees, elbows squeeze the sides of your rib cage all the way down. Okay. Baby cobra. So this is one that we often, we don't take the full extent of the pose for the strength that it creates. So just kind of hover your hands off your mat, but then allow your fingertips to land. And then feel like you're pulling your elbows back. So almost like you're clawing the mat. So press into your fingertips and then begin to draw your fingertips back, and notice how that just naturally lifts your upper body. And then as you exhale, release that grip of the hands and slowly lower back down. So it's more about length. So as you inhale, claw into the mat, draw your elbows back, reach the crown of your head forward and then lift. Exhale, come all the way back down. Nice, let's take that one more time. Inhale, breath to cobra. And exhale to release. Okay, plant into your hands, lift back to child's pose. So you'll come up through tabletop, take your knees wide and hips back towards your heels. Take a full breath in and a long breath out. Lift all the way up through tabletop. Tuck your toes, first downward facing dog of your practice. Lift your hips up. So it might be a little bit sticky. So you can always shift side to side, bend into one knee at a time. You might look under one armpit, maybe dropping one arm more through center. Just a couple breaths to get familiar with this shape. Okay. And then walk your big toes together to touch. Inhale, breath, right heel lifts up towards the ceiling. Bend into your right knee and stack into your hips. As you draw your right knee up towards the ceiling, you'll get this juicy stretch into the hip flexor, into the quad. See if you can stack right hip over left a little bit more. As you exhale, take your right knee between your hands and then step your right foot down. Drop your left knee, monkey lunge. Inhale, take your arms all the way up. Okay, so that you're getting into the quads and not the hip flexors. You want to stretch the muscles. Press into your front foot and shift some weight back. Okay, and then squeeze your glutes. Remembering when you squeeze into the back line, you're opening the front. Okay, let's add in an arm variation. You're gonna reach for opposite wrists, forearms, elbows, and then just begin to draw your elbows out wide. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then relax into the back of your neck. Gaze might come slightly up. All right, gently. You can release the grip of your hands to frame your front foot. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Okay, so you're in a low runner's lunge. Inhale, take your right arm all the way up. As you exhale, curl and round. Thread your right arm underneath your front thigh, chin to your chest. Okay, inhale, breath, open up. Reach towards the ceiling. Nice. Exhale, curl underneath. Let's take one more breath just like that. Inhale, open up. And then exhale, curl and round. So really find that movement in the spine. Inhale, reach up again. As you exhale, Release your hand down. Okay, this is a little bit tricky. You're gonna take that weight into your hands. So your front foot's actually gonna float off of your mat. So begin to drive your right heel in towards your right hamstring, so your knee is in towards your nose. Nice. And then take your right knee towards your left elbow, crossing your body. Extend out your right leg, falling star. So pinky side edge of that foot lands. Turn and pivot your back foot. Nice. Left hand comes all the way up. Press into the ground so you can find a little bit more lift. As you exhale, take your left hand down. Three-legged dog. Sweep your right toes all the way up and back. Bend into the knee, stack into the hips. Exhale, take your right knee to your right elbow. Shoulders over top of your wrists. One more time, sweep back, three-legged dog. Right toes reach up. Exhale, right foot plants between your hands. High runner's lunge this time. Take your hands towards the ceiling, back knee is lifted. Okay, if this feels really unbalanced, it could be that your feet are in a line with one another, so you wanna make sure they're hip width distance, so you can always heel toe right foot out a little bit further. Okay, creating that movement and mobility for the upper body, bend to your elbows, cactus your arms. It's gonna be like you're opening and closing drapes. So as you inhale, squeeze your shoulder blades together, draw your elbows further back. As you exhale, reach out to the sides of your mat, reach forward, long line from your fingertips towards your back heel, and then inhale, open up, slight back bend as you lift through the chest, and exhale, hinge forward. Okay, we just have two more of those. So creating that strength and stability of the lower body, and then the movement and mobility of the upper body. All right, last one. Inhale, reach forward, and then take your arms up towards the ceiling. And then release your hands down to frame your front foot. Slide your back foot about a third of the way up and straighten out your front leg to fold. Okay, just allow your body to drape for a moment. Back toes can always turn slightly out, so you're getting that nice length through the back of the hamstring. Beautiful. Okay, walk your hands forward. Pick up your left foot, so you're kicking your left heel in towards your glute. There's a bind here, so right hand reaches for your left foot. Yeah. Okay, once you have the bind, then begin to lift your left knee up towards the ceiling as much as you can as the crown of your head comes down. So you're looking for that quad stretch. Okay, see if you can hold the pose while not holding your breath. Okay, just two more breaths. Lift the knee up a little bit higher. And then as you exhale, you'll gently release the grip of your foot. Take your toes to the mat, forward fold. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Bend into your knees. Inhale, breath, sweep your arms all the way up. Exhale, hands through heart center. All right, we have a little bit of work to get into side crow. So it's necessary, but it's not always fun. Okay, inhale, breath, reach your arms all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Sink your hips back. So you're coming into that chair shape. Okay. As you inhale, hinge forward, reach the crown of your head towards the top of, or in front of your mat. So you exhale, twist. Left elbow will tap your right outer thigh. Okay, it's gonna be a little bit different. As you inhale back through center, interlace your fingers, stand tall, lift your hands up to the ceiling. Exhale, you're gonna twist the other side. Bring your hands to heart center, sink your hips back, right elbow to left thigh. Inhale up through center, stand tall, squeeze your glutes, exhale, twist to the right. Okay, so you're just gonna continue this. Inhale, stand tall, exhale, twist to the left. Okay, let's take 3 more to each side. If you wanna make this more challenging, you can always keep the deep bend into your knees, and then you're just lifting the upper body to lengthen and to twist. Okay, 2 more breaths, or sorry, 2 more to each side. Ooh, 5 of these to each side is spicy. Okay, remember to draw your heels towards the left and right sides of your mat so you're engaging the glutes. 1 more to each side. You gotta make sure you're breathing. Inhale, you're gonna stand all the way tall, flip your palms up to the ceiling, maybe a slight back bend. Exhale, dive forward, forward fold, let that go. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale, full plank, your hands step back, high plank. You can lower from toes or from knees. You're gonna lower all the way down to your belly again. This time creating space into the fronts of the shoulders. Okay, walk your hands off of your mat. Tent up onto all 10 fingertips, so your elbows point up to the ceiling. And this is my favorite, called Dancing Cobra. As you inhale, begin to peel yourself away. Gaze comes up last. So you exhale, roll your right shoulder to the ground, right cheek, gaze over to the left. Okay. Inhale, lift up through center, roll your right shoulder back, and then exhale, roll your left shoulder forward, gaze over to the right. Okay, 2 more to each side. So inhales bring you up through center, and exhales to lower. Don't worry about depth, just follow the movement of your breath. So similar to when we are moving on our backs with our legs going side to side, you're just looking to release some of that tension. Okay, so we're gonna take 1 more to each side. Right shoulder rolls forward, and then your left shoulder will roll forward. Okay. Come all the way back up through center, and then gently release back down. Okay, take your hands underneath your shoulders. This time, tuck your toes, lift your knees. So to lift your knees, you're gonna have to engage your quads, squeeze your glutes, and then see when you draw your belly button towards your spine, do you feel that slight lift away from the ground? Okay, try to keep everything really solid, and you're gonna lift up to high plank without it being a wave-like motion. So attempting to press your hips and shoulders off at the same time. Nice, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, walk your big toes together to touch. Inhale, breath, draw your left foot up, bend into your left knee, stack into your hips. Peel your side body open. As you exhale, step your left foot between your hands, monkey lunge. Drop your back knee down, and then inhale, take your arms up. You're gonna take a different variation of opening the shoulders. So you can gently release your hands behind your back, clasp interlaced fingers. You can roll your shoulders up and down, and then just draw your knuckles towards your right heel or right calf, and then sternum is lifting. And think about squeezing your shoulder blades together, all the while pressing into that front foot to shift some weight back, maybe even squeezing inner thighs together. Nice. All right, gently release the grip of your hands. Plant your hands to frame your front foot. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Right hand stays down. As you inhale, take your left fingertips up. Okay, 3 rounds of breath and movement. Inhale to reach and lengthen. Exhale, curl and round in. Thread your left arm underneath your bent leg. Inhale, breath, open this back up. Exhale, curl and round in. Let's take that 1 more time. Inhale, breath, extend. Exhale, chin to chest, thread your arm. Inhale to open all the way up, and then exhale, take your left hand down. Okay, falling star variation. Pressing into your hands, begin to slide your left heel in towards your body. Take your left knee to your right elbow, and then kick out the foot and open this up. Nice. So feel how you press down to rise. So we're not sinking the hips to the ground and sinking into the shoulder and wrist, that we're lifting out of those joints. Okay, right hand comes down. 3-legged dog. Inhale, left toes reach up. Bend into the knees, stack into the hips. Exhale, take your left knee to your left elbow, shoulders over top of your wrists. Inhale, breath, sweep back up. And then exhale, crescent lunge. Left foot plants between your hands. Inhale to take your hands up high. Okay, so similar to the last time, 4 breaths of movement. So cactusing the arms. This is your inhale where the heart is wide. Exhale, hinge forward, reach towards the top of your mat, shin tucks towards chest. Inhale, open up even through the throat, squeeze shoulder blades. Exhale, reach forward. Okay, 2 more. Inhale, lift up, sturdy through the legs. Nice, reach forward as you exhale. Let's take 1 more breath with movement. And then this time, instead of opening the arms to cactus, just lift your hands all the way up. And then as you exhale, take your hands down. Okay, let's give that front leg a little love. Slide your back foot about 1/3 of the way up, and then just fold over top of your front leg. Okay, so you're creating some space into the back of the left calf and hamstring. Also setting yourself up for this final bind of the sequence. Okay. So you'll begin to, you can bend into your front leg if you want. Walk your hands about 1 foot forward and wide, so to the corners of your mat. Pick your right heel up. So right heel comes in towards your tailbone, And then left hand grabs a hold of the top of your foot. If you can't catch, lower the foot first, then take the heel in, then lift the knee. So it's basically a quad stretch in a standing split. So you're both getting the lengthening of the front of the right thigh, and then, I'm sure you're feeling it, the back of the left leg as well. Okay, one more breath. Make sure that you're exhaling out. You'll automatically inhale. And then you can gently release and just step to a fold at the top of your mat. Okay, inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Bend into your knees, inhale, breath, sweep all the way up. And then exhale, gather your hands through heart center. Okay, working into side crow. So inhale, breath, reach up. As you exhale, sit into your chair. So you're gonna sink your hips back. Then bring your hands through heart center. Use your next inhale, lengthen. So you reach the crown of your head forward and then twist. So your left elbow towards your right thigh. Okay, you got it. Then release your hands. You're gonna begin to straighten out your arms as though they're coming down to the ground. And you need to bend into your knees. Your heels will lift until you can now take your hips down to your heels. Okay. So some people like to have the knees apart. I like to walk the toes together so that your knees are together, toes are together. Hands are planted. Okay. Then once your hands are planted, spread your fingertips out wide, and you need to lift the hips once again. So hips are above your knees, and that's gonna give you that extra bend into the elbows. So once you've bent into the elbows, you kind of just create the shelf for your thigh to land on. Nice. And then once you have that, you can play with picking up one toe at a time or one foot at a time. Okay. And the biggest thing with this is just trusting that you can take that weight over into your hands. Okay. Nice. Yeah, and if you really want to play with it, then you can always play with straightening out your left leg, and then you can always play with straightening out your right into a cool, fun variation. Yeah. So for you, you might not be able to get both arms under. Some people will just do it with one. So you might not actually have anything on that one arm. That I find a lot of guys, if you don't have enough of the twist, you might only have one of the arms underneath. So that's okay as well. Nice. Okay, so we'll come back to center. So just walk your hands to the top of your mat, straighten out your legs, and just heel toe your feet at least hip width distance apart. And then drape your body. Just kind of let that go. All right. Release the grip of your hands. Take an inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Okay. One more time. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Bending into your knees. Inhale, draw your arms all the way up, stand tall. Okay, exhale, hands through heart center. We're gonna find the other side. Maybe not as long, just to make sure the wrists are good. So begin to sink your hips back. You're hinging forward and then twisting over to your left. You can always take toes and knees together as well if you want from the start. And then you'll slowly begin to lower your hands and lower your hips to your heels. Okay, biggest thing you need to make sure here is it's gonna be really hard to lean over if your hips aren't high. So you do have to actually lift your hips up a little bit. And then that's gonna give you that shelf. Because if your hips are low, you're not gonna be able to get your elbow underneath. So hips have to come up just a little bit. Yeah, and you can always play, one of the ways that I learned this was feet onto blocks as well. So if you have thick books, because it just gives you that extra little bit of lift that we don't get if we can't get the hips up. Yeah. And then you just play with picking out one toe or the other. Make sure that you're transferring your weight into your fingertips, so that like clawing motion that we found with Cobra, that you are pressing into your hands. So it's not as much weight just into the wrists themselves. There you go. Side crow is actually a lot easier than crow. Once you get it, it's just like you just kind of fall into it. Okay, yeah, try one more time and then we'll come into that fold and close off with a couple of back bends. Nice. Okay, so you'll come back, walk your hands forward, pick up your hips, and then just drape your body And let your arms dangle, sway side to side. You can roll out the wrists a couple of times. That might be kind of nice. So actually arm balances and wheel go really well together because it is that flexion of the wrist that you actually need that you just worked on. Okay, so we'll take one halfway lift. Just find that length in your spine as you inhale, and then exhale, you'll gently release down. Plant your hands, step your toes back, high plank. Lower onto your knees and then lower yourself all the way down to your belly. Okay, lotus. Untuck your toes, tops of your feet to your mat. Interlace your hands behind your back. Chin tucks in towards your chest. As you inhale, lengthen through the spine. Reach the crown of your head forward, point through your toes, and then feel your hands draw back to your heels. So you're lifting through the chest, and then you can begin to float your feet off your mat as well. So it's a pretty deep back bend, but it's also about length. So don't worry so much about lifting up. Focus more on reaching your head and feet in opposite directions. Okay, shoulders draw away from your ears. Hold for one more full breath in. And then long breath out. Oh, let that go. Bring the tops of your hand to your mat, palms face up, either cheek down, and just take 3 recovery breaths. So allowing your spine to neutralize, letting go of the tension of that last pose. Let's take one more breath in. And one more breath out. Okay. Bring your chin back through center. Okay, this next pose, there's a couple of options for your bow. You can bend into your knees, bringing your heels in towards your body, and then you reach your hands back one at a time to capture your feet. So your palms face in, your hands are to the pinky side edge of your feet. So you might just stay here and bend into your elbows and draw your heels in towards your body. If you want to find the lift, more that back bend, begin to kick your tops of your feet into your hands. You'll feel your knees lift and then your heart begins to lift. Okay, this one you can take the gaze a little bit more forward. Just make sure you're not cranking into the neck. And then squeeze your inner thighs together to activate those muscles of the adductors so that your knees aren't just spreading wide and that there's contraction to your glutes, so your low back is supported. Okay, let's take one more full breath in. Maybe you kick a little bit higher. And then exhale without slingshotting the feet. Gently release your knees down, release your upper body down, and then allow your feet to float down towards your mat. Take your opposite cheek to your mat, and 3 full recovery breaths, hands down beside you. And gently take your hands underneath your shoulders. Let's practice back to a child's pose just for a moment. Knees can come wide, big toes to touch, hips back towards your heels. Think about this less as a rounding of the spine and find length. So walk your hands forward, draw your shoulders away from your ears, even that slight grip of the fingertips. Take a full breath in to feel your ribcage expand out. And exhale to soften. Okay, one more time, inhale, fill up. And exhale to let that go. Come back to all fours, lift your hips away from your heels, walk your knees in. One final prep before we come into wheel. Walk your hands forward, so you're coming to a melting heart. So your elbows land onto your mat, but then take your palms together, so you're in a prayer. And then you'll lift your hands up and over top of your head, so thumbs land to the nape of your neck. Okay. This opening that you're feeling into the backs of the arms is the same sensation that you'll find in wheels. So it's the same opening that we need in the shoulders to take our biceps beside our ears. Okay, and see if you can just melt into this. Allow your heart to draw down to the ground. Armpits drawing heavy towards your mat. Especially on the exhale breaths, that you allow yourself just to sink in. Okay, let's take 2 more breaths just like that. And last one. All right, you can gently release the grips of your hands. Walk your hands in towards your body. Shift yourself over onto your seat. Take your feet out in front. We're gonna slowly lower down onto our back. Okay. Walk your feet in towards your hips. We're gonna take one bridge lift before we come into wheel just to reset the spine. So hands down beside your body, press into your feet, lift up your hips as you inhale. And then as you exhale, just slowly lower back down. Okay, so if you don't feel ready for wheel, you can just hold bridge like that with hands down. Or actually, let's take one bridge where we're holding. So actually keep your hands down, press into your feet, lift your hips. Okay, and then walk your shoulders underneath you. And you can interlace your hands underneath your body. So you're in that interlaced spine that we found a few times. Backs of your arms and shoulders press into the ground. Try to make sure your gaze is up. And then think about lifting your heart towards your chin. So instead of taking your chin to your heart, lift your chest in towards your body. Pick your hips up towards the ceiling. Squeeze your inner thighs towards one another. Take one more breath in. And then as you exhale, just slowly release grip of your hands. Lower down one vertebra at a time. Bring the soles of your feet together and knees out to the side. And then it might feel nice to take the arms overhead, or you can always take one hand to your belly, one hand to your heart. Okay, back bends often create a lot of heart racing. That it's a lot of energy. It's a little bit of that panic a bit of being in that really challenging shape. So just allow yourself some breath to bring the body out of the fight or flight mode and into relaxation, so that when we come into wheel, our body is open to receiving and can breathe through it and energize the muscles with the oxygen rather than just grip and try to push through. Okay, so bring the knees back up through center. Feet are going to be planted, heels walking close. So make sure you can almost brush the backs of your heels with your middle fingers. Okay, this is where it changes. Pick your hands up towards the ceiling, and then palms are facing away from the body. Bend into your elbows. So now the backs of your hands are facing towards the ground, and then flex into your hands. Fingertips draw towards your forearms. So you can place your palms on the ground almost beside your ears. It might be a little bit more ahead, but your elbows point up to the ceiling. Biceps are beside your ears, and then as you press into your hands and your feet, you begin to lift your hips, and then you might just come onto the crown of your head with your hands and head and feet supporting you, so kind of in a supported wheel, or you can press into your hands and straighten your arms to lift your hips up to come into this shape. Nice. Okay, so then in wheel, you want to focus on lifting up, so press into the ground, see if you can take the hips up a little bit higher. Yeah, that looks awesome. Okay, so to come down, just slowly lower, bending into your elbows, and then think about rolling down the spine. So tuck your chin into your chest, and then shoulders all the way down towards your hips. And then once again, take soles of your feet together, knees out to the side, arms land wherever is comfortable, and just take a couple of deep, full belly breaths. So what's really great about wheel is that it's actually really energizing being in an inversion. So closing off practice with wheel hopefully allows us to reset our day a little bit. Take one more breath in your recovery pose. And then gently pick up your knees. Walk your feet out wide, and it should feel nice to just gently drop your knees over to the left and over to the right. And close off with a couple of twists just to nourish the spine. So you walk your feet back through center. I'm going to add on figure 4, but you can take any twist you'd like. So your left knee draws into your chest, and then left ankle will cross over top of your right thigh. Okay. And then press into the sole of your right foot and just shift your hips over to the left so that you have a little bit of space to land. And you'll lower your knees to the right. So your left foot will plant on the ground. And then you can always bind the right hand to your left foot, ankle, shin. And then that's where you can draw your knee away from your body. You can play with rolling your left hip towards the earth if you want to get this more into the glutes. Or you can just allow your left knee to draw towards the earth. So yogi's choice, but just make sure wherever you are, there's no pulling in the low back. And there's room for you just to take a couple of those recovery breaths, guiding you towards your Shavasana. And then you can slowly lift all the way back up through center. Untangle your legs if you want. You might wash your knees side to side or take knees into your chest. You're just setting up for the other side. Okay. A right knee draws into your chest, right ankle crosses over your left thigh, and then shift your hips over to the right while your shoulders stay in the center. Knees drop over to the left so your right foot is planted. And you can extend out your arms, gaze the opposite direction than you did the first time, and then either taking the bind, maybe playing with your right knee drawing forward or right hip rolling down. So really just yogi's choice of what feels good for you here. Allow your eyes to close. Maybe tap into your external environment. So you might be feeling slight breeze on the body or temperature of the space. Maybe the feeling of the ground beneath you. The sounds of your breath. Slowly, you can come all the way back up through center. Untangle your legs. You can shift your hips back into the middle of your mat. Might feel nice to take one final squeeze in, so you're opening up through the low back. Maybe a gentle rock side to side. And then you can just slowly extend out for Shavasana. You can plant your feet and extend your legs. Hands down beside you, and you can always walk your shoulders underneath your body. And I know that Shavasana can be challenging when there's a lot of other things that we could be doing and there's a lot of distractions, especially with the home practice. So I'll bring you out of this in just a couple minutes, but enjoy this time. That this is really one of the most important parts of the practice, to give yourself the rest, especially after really challenging poses like backbends, like inversions, arm balances, to allow your spine to decompress. So just feel into the movement of your breath, resisting that urge to move, to shift, to do. Reminding yourself as often as you need that you're worthy of this space and this time, that this is important, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes to be still. And perhaps this also just becomes a space where you let go of anything that didn't serve you this morning, even in your practice, any thoughts that came up that just bring you away from your center. Remember that it's not just here in our practice that we need to rest, but also in the rest of our day-to-day life, to just take these little pauses to reset, clear out some body tension, clear out some mind tension, so we just have some space to move forward. If you want to take longer, you're welcome to stay. Otherwise, you can just gently begin to wiggle into fingertips and toes. Maybe a big stretch might be nice. Okay. Truly, so much love, so much gratitude. Thank you for joining. Namaste. How are you feeling?
Good. It's a little windy, but nice to be outside.
Yeah, nice to have some sun, hey?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, curl looked really good. The biggest thing, I think, you just have to get your hips up enough that you can lean over. But,
right.
Yeah.
What were you saying about most guys that don't have like their
so a lot of people, the twist is actually quite deep to get both elbows. So some people can only get one elbow. So
Okay.
Some people do crows. So if you're twisting to your right, your left elbow actually isn't underneath your body. So I find guys, just because they have more bulk or they just don't have as deep of a twist or as flexible of a spine as a lot of women more so. It's just what I notice is that women can typically get the deep twist to get both elbows under. Some people need this arm off to the side, but it's still fairly easy. It's really not that much weight on the arm. It's just a matter of balance. And if you're having trouble tipping forward, walk your hands a little further as well. Because if your hands are in really close, there's no room. But if you walk your hands out, there's a little bit more of that space to tip. Do you see? If the hands are in here, you don't really feel comfortable, you're kind of squished. But if you walk your hands about 1.5 feet away, then you can kind of shift over. So,
I'll work on that.
yeah, good job today.
I'll try and wrangle up smarter people for next time.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, we'll figure it out. I'll talk to Leah too and see. But yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for giving me some inspiration what to teach.
So, thanks a lot.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Yeah.